Howdy everybody, I'm Don, welcome to the channel. I take a look at lots of subjects and I'm a philosopher by nature. Most of us are anyway, even though we don't identify ourselves that way. But this stuff, space travel, the stuff that Elon Musk is doing, trying to get us to Mars and all, it's fascinating. Whether we ever get there or not, I don't know. But we're just going to take a look. It's always fun to look at this stuff. I just marvel at how we pull this stuff off. But at the SpaceX rocket going up and then being caught by the apparatus on the launch pad. So it's just a brilliant idea of becoming more cost effective and having a quick turnaround. And Elon came up with it that why don't we save these rocket boosters? They're very expensive. Instead of just dropping them off in the ocean and sinking and we never see them again or what have you, let's reuse them. And that's what's going on. So I'm going to put my headphones on, but we're just going to look at the simple marvel of this.
3, 2, 1.
And this was controlled. It was going to go to about 6.5 miles and then just come right back down to get caught.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Engines. This is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my entire life. Coming up on hot stage separation confirmed.
Booster coming in.
Looks like a disaster.
The vehicle is moving on the left hand. Landing burn.
13 engines.
Megavilla had popped the booster.
At the launch tower.
Yeah.
What an incredible view!
Wow. I don't know about you, but we're losing our stuff up here.
There is so much in that. I mean, it's just cool to watch. It doesn't even look like, every time I watch these things, it doesn't look like it's going to get straight down into the, the catching arms there. But there's a few things here. A lot of folks think, I used to think this too, that when they go to ignition for liftoff, I think this wasn't as much fuel being released. I think it was more controlled because they were only going to, as I recall, an altitude of 6.5 miles for their first test flight. And I think this was that, and obviously successful. That they were going up, slowing it down, and then bringing it back down just to see if the catching arm and all that stuff, if they had things in place. And even as Elon said numerous times, he goes, guys, there are going to be failures. We are trying crazy stuff and very advanced stuff. And we learn from every single failure and we go through with it. And that's one of the things any entrepreneur knows, you've got to be willing to fail. Any athlete knows it, any quarterback knows it. And you learn from it and you keep pushing through it. So Elon knew that process, but this was go up, come back down, see if it works. It worked, but most folks think, for example, when they see the plumes of smoke, they think it's smoke coming off the launch pad when they're at ignition. That actually isn't smoke. That's actually steam, because a couple of things happened, and they learned this from the launches of the space shuttle, the repeat launches of the space shuttle, where tiles were being blown off on liftoff, and that impeded the ability for them to re-enter the Earth. Those were heat shield tiles. They were being blown off, some of them, on liftoff. Part of that was because the fuel coming out of the rockets were hypersonic, and the sonic booms were blowing them off. So one of the ways in which they muted that was to dump 500,000 gallons of water. Upon ignition, it would dump into a trough. The fuel would go into the water, obviously, and what you're seeing there is steam. But by the time the space shuttle cleared the tower, it was traveling, and the tower was about 300 feet high. It was already traveling 100 miles an hour, going straight up. And within 300 feet, it was traveling 100 miles an hour, carrying all this weight. The thrust, the acceleration was absurd. This didn't look to have that degree of rate of acceleration, but because it was only going up to 6.5 miles, it wouldn't have that. But the way in which the engines are constructed and the computerized system to reposition the nozzles, if you will, of the boosters to slow the descent into the arm and redirect it is fascinating. But what I also think is when we look at this, as amazed as we are that this is going on now, in 10 years or 50 years, people will actually look back and say, man, that was kind of barbaric a little bit. Just like people look back at the NBA or they look back at records, anything that happened years ago, people look back on and say, wow, that was crude. I mean, we used to be able to smoke on airplanes. And for example, I mean, things change over time and we look back and we're like, good Lord. But this is still, it's absolutely fascinating, stepping stone. And I marvel every time I see this. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Leave your comments. Please subscribe. I'll see you on another video and keep thinking philosophically.
Landing burn.
13 engines.